This episode of A Shot at Business Central and Beer is brought to you by Microsoft Teams, Microsoft's collaboration app helping organizations and employees work remotely. Right now, you can get 6 months free of Microsoft Teams. That's 6 free months of video conferencing, file sharing, chat sessions, and really everything you need to work from home during the current COVID-19 pandemic. Email us at info@solstice.com. That's info@solsyst.com. Welcome back, everybody, to this month's show of A Shot at Business Central and a Beer. I'm Michael Intravartolo, and I'm here with Ken Sebahar as usual. And today's podcast is going to be a little bit different just because of the coronavirus pandemic. And Ken and I, for the first time, are not actually doing the podcast from the same room. We're doing it through Microsoft Teams, which we will also talk about a little bit later. But the podcast is also going to be a little bit different just purely because we're not going to focus exclusively on Business Central. We're going to talk a little bit about the coronavirus pandemic, some of the tools that we're using to help us work remote. We're going to talk about Microsoft Teams, and nobody has to worry. We're still going to give you some of that good old-fashioned Business Central news. So, Ken, we made it to April. Things are looking good outside from inside of my house. How about you? How are you doing?
Doing as well as can be expected under these unusual circumstances that we've all been living with for the past several weeks.
We have been. It's been a little bit different, but such is life, I suppose. What are you drinking, and were you able to find some beer for this podcast?
Yeah, so I am drinking a nice ice cold beverage here. I'll tell you what I got in a little bit, but let me share. Everyone has their stories of things that have impacted them, related to this COVID-19 coronavirus. And I thought maybe I'll share a story that ties into what beer I'm drinking today.
All right.
It was last Friday or a week or so ago, and the governor of Illinois was going to announce at 3 p.m. that we were at he was issuing a stay-at-home order starting at 3 o'clock on Friday. So at about 2 o'clock, I thought, well, we're going to be doing this podcast probably remotely, it looks like. So I'm going to go over to Binny's and pick up some beer that I can drink,
Yeah.
So I drove over there. It takes about 2 minutes to get there. I drive up and I saw a line of people standing outside. And I said, wow. But the parking lot was pretty open, actually. So it wasn't like the store was overloaded too much. So I parked the car, got in line, and realized they were just letting one person in as each one person came out.
Okay.
But I stood there for about 5 minutes or longer, and no one had walked out, which was kind of odd. So then finally someone walks out with a shopping cart loaded, overflowing with beer, cases of wine, liquor, you name it.
So was it a big party weekend that you didn't know about?
Yeah, apparently this guy heard about that lockdown, and he was going to make sure he was well supplied for the 2 weeks. The 2 week minimum. So I stood there a while longer. Now I'm like, okay, well, I'm 15th in line here. I was thinking this is going to take like 15 minutes to get through this line.
Right.
But then like another 5 minutes passed. Next guy walks out with a loaded cart.
Oh, man.
And at this point, I noticed that as the person was walking in, there was a guy handing each person a cart as they walked in. And I learned that they were limiting each customer with one cartload.
Really? That's what the limit was?
So I think everyone took that to mean that they had to load their cart to the top.
Right. You're going to be out of stock by the time you got up there.
So at that point, my patience grew thin. I exited the line and headed home. And so, long story short, I opened up my fridge downstairs, and besides some of the obligatory Miller Lite, Miller High Life and Coors that I had available, I spotted the one beer I found that we have not drinking yet on this podcast, and it is a beer called Spotted Cow from New Glarus Brewing Company in New Glarus, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Nice choice. Yeah, I would imagine too many people from around the United States haven't really had that beer as well. Probably only in the Midwest, if you're lucky, I guess.
Correct. Yeah, it's a really popular beer in Wisconsin, and probably like along the lines of what you're saying is because they don't distribute it anywhere except in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's pretty cool. I have a lot of respect for that because New Glarus is a teeny town of maybe 2,000 people in the middle of central Wisconsin. And I think they have a really good thing going, a good business. And they decided, you know what, we're just going to keep the people of Wisconsin happy and brew the beer that we know is good and everyone loves.
That's great. So they decided not to chase the profits and just stay happy.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty cool, too. I did some research on the New Glarus and found that Deborah Carey is the founder and president of the New Glarus Brewing Company, and she started it back in 1993, raising the capital for the startup and establishing herself as the first woman to found and operate a brewery in the United States, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. Congratulations, Deborah. That's amazing. So that was 1993, you said?
Yep.
So they've actually been around for a little bit longer than I thought they were.
Yep. And they're very, very clear on the fact that they do not use high fructose corn syrup in their beer.
So a healthy beer.
I suppose it's as healthy as it gets.
We'll take it where we can get it.
Yep. How about you? What do you have going on today?
Well, so the beer I chose this month is hands down one of my favorite beers. I have a preference, I guess, towards Mexican beers. I'm not going to say which one. This is a pale lager, but given the current coronavirus pandemic situation, it's what I had, and I thought that, it might go well with the podcast. So I am actually drinking a Corona Extra with lime juice, not a lime because I did not have any limes.
Oh, Michael, you went there, huh?
Yeah. There's no umbrella hanging out of it though, so it's okay. To me, Corona is one of my favorite beers. That Modelo. There's just something about it. It reminds me of summer. It's crisp. It's refreshing, and it just I guess it makes me happy, as most beer does to a lot of people. What I found interesting about Corona was, well, for Corona, my rating's high because it's one of my favorite beers. I'm going to give it a 94. I went on Beer Advocate just to see what the ratings were, and the rating on Beer Advocate is 56, which shocked me.
Wow,
I understand it's pretty bad. I understand it's not like a special craft beer or whatnot, but I mean, I should have checked the ratings for like Miller Lite or Budweiser just to see if they were above Corona. And so not only did the rating shock me, what some of the people said shocked me. So, for example, one person said, overall, it's just like Heineken and Budweiser. This is overrated and advertised as hyped, mediocre beer. Okay, so not too bad. Another person said, generic, cheap, mass-produced Mexican lager. As a beer, it's terrible. The obligatory sliver of lime offers an improvement. And my favorite is, overall, as stated, it's a party beer, no flavor, no balance, no character. You just drink it and don't think about it. If you get a buzz, that would be the highlight of your day. So, I can't believe people knock it that much. I would assume, Ken, you've had Corona. Do you think it's that bad?
I do. No, I like Corona. I do. I like it. As a matter of fact, I was just recently at the store and I purchased a 12er of Corona Light.
Oh.
And I also got a real lime. And
So you can get Corona Light and a real lime and you're okay. But
yeah, that's the equivalent of drinking Corona with lime juice. But anyways, the cashier said, "Hey, Corona Light, huh? Did you know that their Corona's beer sales are down 39% over the past month because of coronavirus?"
Oh.
And I said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, but this is Corona Light, so I should be okay."
Yeah, you're not going to catch the virus from Corona Light. Oh, pretty good. It's pretty good. So, if you had to give a rating to the spotted cow, what would you give it?
I would give it an 86.
86. Pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's like just a ale. It's described as like a cream ale, farmhouse style ale. But it's like just good beer. It's like just a traditional beer. And I have one rating that I'll just share with you, which this is from Alex Griffin, is who posted this on Beer Advocate.
All right.
My guess, I'm just guessing, but my guess is that Alex is from Wisconsin.
Okay.
His quote is his feedback is, "This is my favorite beer of all time. I take that back. It says only sold in Wisconsin, so anytime I'm up that way, I buy several cases. Super smooth cream ale, perfect with a nice aged cheddar or Gouda cheese, and pairs perfectly with a brat or any meat for that matter." So I just figured, I saw the brat and the cheese, and I thought, okay.
Yeah, he's all in on Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Not bad. So, speaking of Corona beer and coronavirus and whatnot, I guess I'd like to start off by talking about the coronavirus a little bit and basically saying that anybody who's doing something to help out with the situation, so whether you're a nurse or a doctor or a grocery store employee, or you're in the technological field such as Ken and I at Solution Systems, everybody deserves a pat on the back for helping everybody get through this hard time. And as some of you may have guessed, and as others know, I prefer to look at things with a glass half full kind of a viewpoint. So I've got a couple things here that I want to say to shed a little bit of happy light, I guess, on the situation. So first is, China has closed down its last coronavirus hospital because there wasn't enough new cases to actually support keeping the hospital open. There's a Cleveland clinic that can now test for coronaviruses that is able to shrink the turnaround from days to actually a few hours. And as of last week, or beginning of this week, Abbott has just revealed a test that can provide results in as little as 5 minutes, which I think is going to be a game changer, because the more people get tested, the faster that we can hopefully get on from this. Johns Hopkins, Johnson & Johnson, and others are currently developing vaccines. And the world is getting a little bit of a breather because of the reduction in pollution. And because of this, in Venice, Italy, the canals are actually clear, and fish and dolphins have reappeared for the first time in decades. So, if you get a chance, go on the internet, look up the canals in Italy. It's pretty amazing, because usually there's boats and everything going through it, and it's kicking up all the sediment and whatnot. So it's a little bit different. Ken, wow. I know your thoughts probably aren't as happy as mine on the coronavirus pandemic, but what do you think?
No, I guess I would say that I congratulate you for your thought process, and I would say I aspire to be a glass half full person.
Right.
So
thank you.
But it's tough. It's tough for me. I mean, this is tough. I mean, it's difficult seeing, the impact that this is having on people's health and livelihoods. So I think, it is good. It is important to jump in and help people in any way that you can, whether that's through your job and just going to work every day, or it's being available and just getting on a chat with your family and friends and keeping each other company as we all kind of self-quarantine over the next few weeks, right?
So. Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. So with the coronavirus pandemic, I know a lot of people have to actually work more remote than usual or work from home more than usual. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to share like maybe one or two pieces of software that we utilized to help us work from home, because Solution Systems had the capability of working from home, I want to say, for at least a decade or more. Mm-hmm. So I'll go first, and the first piece of software that I utilize, I like Microsoft Teams. It's a great collaboration tool. You can share files, all that stuff. But I'm not going to say too much about that now because we're going to get more in depth into Microsoft Teams later. What about you, Ken? You got a favorite software that helps you work from home?
Well, yeah. So I also, I have been using Teams, but I installed it on my phone, and it's handy on your phone as well. I've been using, we've been using SharePoint also. We use on a lot of our projects, which is, a web-based portal that we can use to share project files, either internally or with our customers. So that's something that comes to mind. And then, also just Outlook.com. If you're accessing your email more remotely, if you have Office 365, being able to access your email and your calendar, and it's all synced and integrated, really has been more helpful as I'm completely out of the office at this point.
Yes, very true. And you know what else is a very helpful, useful tool? Business Central. Business Central in the cloud, especially, you can work from anywhere that you have remote or internet connectivity. And speaking of Business Central, Ken, was there any news in the past month about Business Central?
We sure do. Yeah. So, we were kind of nervous that Microsoft was going to maybe slow down with everything going on. But actually, since our last podcast, Microsoft has released 2 updates for Business Central.
Wow.
So the first one was update 15.3. That was deployed to most cloud environments on or around March 11th. If you didn't schedule a specific date for your update, most of the deployment environments we saw were updated right around March 11th. And this version actually included several, not only fixes, there were 84 total platform and application fixes that were included with that.
So Microsoft isn't taking a break.
Yeah, including there were multiple hot fixes, I think this is worth pointing out, that addressed issues with importing GL budgets. I noticed, we had noticed some issues before, had some issues reported from our customers with a couple different things with importing budgets into Business Central. So there were a few there, but there were also some new features that were deployed. They had been only doing fixes as part of the updates, but in this update, some new features that include the addition of the Your Reference field in the external document number field on sales documents. Also, a change in the account schedule report that allows you to skip empty lines. So that's kind of something that was requested. Also, Micro fonts are now available in Business Central Online. So meaning that you can create documents and reports that use these micro and security fonts for printing AP checks, for example. And they actually license these font packages through ID automation. So this is a new feature. People want to print on blank checks a lot, so this will help enable that capability. And then like the last thing worth mentioning is that they added a feature. This one maybe only partners maybe are more interested in, but they added some sign-in attempt telemetry for partners. So what this does is this allows, it creates telemetry records that partners can look at that will record whenever a user attempts to log in to or sign in to Business Central. And it will log every successful attempt, and it will also log any failed attempts along with the reason for the login failure. So what this means for customers is that partners will be able to more efficiently support them and provide answers as to why a user's maybe not able to successfully connect to Business Central.
Very nice. Very good for troubleshooting. Nice.
Yeah. And then a couple other things. So if you look at the update release notes, there's a section called Good to Know. I kind of chuckle at that section, like, okay, hey, by the way, hey, this is good to know. They've updated some browser cookie policies. It has to do with creating tighter security. And if you're using Google Chrome or Edge as your browser for Business Central, then you need to make sure that you have applied a recent update to your nav or Business Central environment in order to avoid having issues due to these new browser's cookie policies. So there's a link that shows what cumulative update for each version of nav or Business Central on premise you need to be running in order to ensure you avoid issues with this. Obviously, if you're on Business Central Cloud, you don't have to worry about this because it's it's being updated on a regular basis.
Nice, very nice.
And two more good to knows. One is that there's a note that says that users are going to receive a message if they're using Internet Explorer for Business Central, suggesting that they consider a different browser. And it says that they will, using a more modern browser like Edge, will provide a smoother experience. So I thought I would help translate that from Microsoft speak into normal person speak. And that is, do not use Internet Explorer for Business Central. If you do, you're going to have problems. We're aware of that, and we will not be addressing them. So switch to Edge or Chrome as reliable browsers.
You could almost go so far as saying do not use Internet Explorer for most of your web browsing.
Yeah, I think so. I think, especially in today's day and age, with you got to really keep current to
Right.
ensure that you're operating in a secure environment.
Completely agree.
And then one more quick good to know is that Microsoft has now created capabilities for partners to have visibility into Business Central environments so that they can better understand the number of licenses that are used, the types of licenses, and how many have been assigned or allocated. And why this is important is because this is kind of a first step to allowing app developers to more efficiently monetize their app or charge for their app. So what they can do is they can create rules that say, okay, we're going to charge you each month if you install and use our app, we're going to charge you based on the number of active users that you have deployed in Business Central. So what they'll be able to do is, through some commands and tools that Microsoft is providing, be able to kind of pull that data on a periodic basis so that they can understand how much to charge for their apps.
Nice. Definitely a pretty cool feature right there for app developers.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, so then that was 15.3, and then it was a little surprising on March 26th. Most of our Business Central Cloud environments were updated again with update 15.4.
So surprising because 2 updates in a month, or I guess
Yeah.
within literally 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's almost correct. Yeah, it was less than 3 weeks apart, 2 weeks about between these updates, and so this one had only a number of fixes, application fixes, about 42 total fixes. One of them was key, and that was that rapid start validate, the rapid start validate package process had been pretty slow at times when you're importing data from a spreadsheet. And so I think they addressed that. So now if you use rapid start to import data, you should see a much better improved speed on that import process. And then they also added one feature with 15.4, and that is the ability to bookmark a report. So currently in 15.3, let's say, you could bookmark a page, and what that would do is that would add a shortcut to your role center so that you can, in a single click, open up that page. And now what you can do is you can bookmark a report, and it puts a link to that report right on your role center. So I think pretty handy in allowing users to make sure they have quick access to the reports that they run on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's all about keeping up that productivity. So definitely very good updates and all that type of a lot of nice new features added. So what I got for Business Central is a couple quick things. I saw that the cumulative update 17 for the Business Central October 2018 release was put out there. Mm-hmm. Just has application hotfixes and platform hotfixes. And cumulative update 10 for Business Central April 2019 release was also made available. 22 application hotfixes and 6 platform hotfixes. So it's not too bad. I mean, Microsoft is still continuing to put out updates and whatnot. And another thing that I saw that I liked, Microsoft is starting a series for IT professionals. They're calling it Dynamics 365 for IT professionals. And this is really so people that have an IT background, they can understand like the administrator roles a little bit better, the underlying architecture of Dynamics 365, and the things of that nature. In the show notes, I'll put a link to the video that they put out, which basically describes the series that is just about to be released. So
nice.
Yeah, all in all, pretty good news for a crazy month.
Yeah, and just today, I saw an announcement that the Business Central 2020 Wave 1 release is still scheduled for April. So that should be deployed to most environments, cloud environments, sometime during April. And there was an additional note that said that usually companies have 30 days to schedule, if they want to schedule their environment to be updated. But they're extending that currently so that organizations will have up to 60 days now to schedule that update.
Very nice. And that's a good idea because a lot of organizations, might be shut down right now just because of the current times that we're living in. So, yeah. Way to go, Microsoft, for helping out. Yeah. So another thing that Microsoft is doing to help out is they have offered Microsoft Teams free to anyone for 6 months, no strings attached. And the reason why they're doing it is because Microsoft Teams is a really good collaboration app that is beneficial with helping employees work from home. So what I'd like to do a little bit is just talk about Microsoft Teams and some of its features and functionality. I'll include in the show notes more detailed description of each feature, but just to go over real quick. When you first get Microsoft Teams right out of the box, you'll notice that there's really 6 sections on the left-hand side of it. There's the team section, the calendar section, the activity section, the chat section, the call section, and the file section. Each section is going to serve, its different purposes for different things. Like the team section, this is where you'll basically have your meetings. And in each individual team, you can have a channel. So if you're working on a big project, let's say 4 people want to split off and work on a separate part of that project, you add another channel. And it's pretty nice. Gives them a lot of collaboration ability. Second section I really want to touch on is the calendar section, and this is basically where you have your Outlook calendar synced in with your Teams section. So it's almost it is mirroring your Outlook calendar, and you can see your appointments and whatnot. You can schedule appointments and video chats right from there. Third section is the activity section. This is the section where it's the section where I usually, when I first log in, it's where I go to first, just to see if anybody's mentioned me or there's been any updates on chats or whatnot. Then, speaking of chats, then you have the next section, which is the chat section, where you can see a list of all your recent chats. It's really good for going back to reference conversations and finding things, stuff like that. And then you've got the call section. Now, the call section is interesting because anybody in your organization can call. You can call anybody in your organization, but you have to have a Microsoft calling plan if you want to have the keypad in the call section to be able to dial out and call anybody that has a cell phone. And the last section really is the file section. This is where you're going to see all your files, and you can connect right into OneDrive and pull up files and things like that. A couple of the features I like for Teams are the background blur. So if you're on a call and there's a bunch of activity going on in your background, you can blur the background so that everybody in the meeting focuses more on you as opposed to your background. I also like the whiteboard app, although I think the whiteboard app has a little bit more, how can I say, a little bit more, or needs a little bit more function added to it to be really good, but I like it. You can add post-it notes, you can draw things real quick, and it allows anybody who's actually in the meeting to write on the whiteboard. Now, a couple of things that I think need to be added to Teams is there's not an actual feature to take a picture from your laptop if you need to take a picture for something. Highly unlikely that you will. I mean, it's possible you might, but it would be nice to throw that in. It shouldn't be too hard because it has video capabilities.
Yeah, you could do that probably more if you're using your phone, though. That would be more relevant, right?
It could be. Yeah, it could be. And another thing that I do not like is if you create a new channel in Microsoft Teams, once you set that channel's privacy setting to either public or private, you cannot go back and change that setting. So let's just say it's a public channel, you're doing something with whatever, you need to make it private so that information doesn't get out there or whatnot. You can't change it, and all your information stays public. I do not like that. The only way to get rid of it is then to delete the actual channel.
Sounds like a little feature request we can submit to Microsoft.
Right. I think whoever the owner of the channel is should have full access over the privacy settings of that channel for as long as that channel's up. Mm-hmm. But all in all, I like Microsoft Teams. I think it's really good, like I said, for collaboration, file sharing, video chats, video conferencing, and all those good things. So don't forget, 6 months free.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've got a few things specific things I like about Teams. And the first is that it is kind of a combination of a chat app, your calendar, your activities, right? So what I like is I've had several meetings over the past few weeks, and all of the files maybe that were shared or comments or notes that people were making remain in there, so they're visible to you. So it's kind of really easy to go back and look at previous maybe chats that you've had or exchanges or whatever, files maybe that were shared during a meeting. Right. So that's pretty handy. I also like that you can, when you share your desktop with someone, you can choose to either share just one app or you can share your entire desktop. Mm-hmm. So, right, it's possible you may not want them to see your entire desktop and all the stuff that you have open, maybe your email or whatever. So it's kind of cool that you can be like, well, I want you to look at this Microsoft Word document or this spreadsheet, so I can just share just that file with you, with the group or with whoever I'm working with. So.
Right. Very nice.
And then on the call thing, you touched on the calling plan. I just want to so clarification. So let's say that Michael and I are both working and I want to talk to Michael, I don't have to call him. I can just request a team meeting with him, right? Mm-hmm. And we both will just use our computers' audio and the internet to talk to one another, kind of like what we're doing right now on this podcast, right? So if it's someone else who has Teams, you don't have to call them. You can actually just have a team chat meeting session with them. And it's effectively like a call, and then you can do screen shares and all that other cool stuff. But if you do want to set up a Teams meeting with someone who maybe does not have a microphone and speakers on their computer, you may want to share a separate conference call phone number so they can dial in through a traditional phone line. And in that case, you could subscribe to a Microsoft calling plan as part of your Teams subscription, but that there is a cost to that, right? So that's something to consider. What we've been successful doing, sorry Microsoft, as much as I love you, we've just been using freeconferencecall.com so that each person can go create and register for their own phone number and meeting ID. And then if you have to share that with maybe someone and have a Teams meeting with someone who doesn't have the audio portion, you just set up provide them with the conference call and information, and then they can jump in and join the call through that conference call.
Yes, and it works really well too. So I think the one thing that really is going to end up distinguishing Teams from other collaboration platforms is the ability to embed apps and information directly within Teams, so that it's almost becoming a dashboard that you never have to leave. You can embed Power BI apps. You can connect to Google Analytics, Constant Contact, whatever you want. Right. So it's very, very powerful when all the features are utilized.
And if you're using, I hope I'm not stepping on your toes here, Michael, but go ahead. I was just saying, if you're using Office 365, the integration and data and synchronization between your Outlook, calendar, emails, all that stuff in Teams is automatic and instantaneous.
Yes, it's amazing. And I also noticed I updated my Microsoft Teams picture last night, and I didn't realize it would update my picture through all of Office 365. So now my picture shows up on all my emails.
Oh, there you go. Is that good or bad?
I'm not a fan of it, so might have to take that picture down.
Or get a different picture, like maybe just throw like a something that looks more like Tom Cruise or something, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But doctor that photo up a little bit. Yeah. Which I may. But all in all, don't forget Teams is free. We're going to have a lot more features and functionality listed in the show notes when you check out the podcast on our website. And we want to move into Ken's favorite section, maybe not, Business Central apps. Do you have a special app that you want to talk about today, Ken?
I do, but let's be clear. The beer segment is my favorite segment.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm not gonna try to fool anyone with that. So yeah, let's talk about an app. So but before I get into my app that I want to talk about today, just some general information about apps. So this was as of about a week ago, towards the end of March. There were 618 apps published on AppSource for Business Central.
That's amazing.
So, it's a huge number. I think, we've been, since we started this about a year ago, I think we were in the, around 200?
Yeah, maybe.
If that. And they've been regularly, very consistently adding, it seems like about 40 to 50 each month.
Right.
Get out there. So it's a little tough to keep up with all these, which is but that's why we're here, right? So
Yep.
we can help you figure out which ones to look for, which ones are good, and maybe provide some insights on some specific ones that we find are pretty helpful. Now, what I looked is I said, okay, there's 618 of these. How do we separate the wheat from the chaff, right? Which ones are the good ones? Which ones are the not so good ones, maybe? So I noticed that anyone can go in and you can rate the apps, and you can rate them. You can give them 1 star all the way through 5 stars. So I said, you know what? Let's see, what are the really good ones? How many are there that have 4 stars or 5 stars? And there were 196. So
Out of the 600 something? Not
618, bad. Yeah. So approximately 30% of the apps have been rated with 4 or 5 stars, which is pretty good. And then I'm like, wow, that's a lot of apps, that maybe have 1 star or 2 stars.
Yeah.
So I went down and I said, well, how many of these apps have 1 star or higher? And the answer was 230, which, using my elementary math skills, that means that there were 388 apps that had not yet had any ratings by users.
Oh, such a shame.
Yeah. So
I think what's good. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think, though, out of the ones that were rated, what's pretty impressive is that almost half have 4 or 5 stars out of the ones that are rated. Much higher than that. So if we look at it, it would be, again, now I'm getting my calculator out here, just fooling anyone. So of the 230 apps that have been rated, 196 have 4 or 5 stars, which is over 85%. Oh, I misunderstood you. I thought it was 230 apps that didn't have 4 or 5 stars. There were just 1, 2, or 3 stars. So wow, that's even more impressive.
Yeah, only 230 out of the 618 have had any rating at all. And 85% are 4 or 5 stars. So
amazing. Microsoft community is doing their job.
Yeah, and I think we need the community to help, providing those ratings. So if you download an app or you look at an app, even if you look at an app and you look at it and you decide that this isn't really helpful for you, give it a rating. And what you can do is you can add a comment also. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of put a reason or a description of why you gave something the rating that you gave it, because maybe other people might look at that and might go, well, this person gave it a low rating, but it was because of this reason, and that reason really isn't applicable for me. So
right.
So anything's helpful. But so that's that. Let's talk about my app. So the app that I picked to talk about today is an app called Multi-Entity Management, and it's developed by a partner called Binary Stream Software. So some of you out there listening right now may be familiar with this. Multi-Entity Management, or MEM, was an app or add-on solution that's actually been around for many years and was sold within the GP channel. And so Binary Stream kind of saw the success and popularity of Business Central and said, hey, Business Central kind of has the same issue as GP. We should create an app for Business Central that does the same thing. And we actually had a business opportunity recently where we worked with Binary Stream on providing a tailored demonstration of this solution with the prospect, and it kind of checked off all the boxes of everything they were looking for. So
amazing.
Yeah. So what is it, right? What it is what it fulfills this need where you may be a business out there where you have multiple separate legal entities that make up your organization. Let's call it Company A, Company B, Company C, and Company D. And all of those have their own balance sheets and their own, bank accounts and financial statements. But you share a set of common customers or vendors or items or even a chart of accounts. So you don't want to have to set up the same customer 4 times in company A, B, C, and D every time you get a new customer that you may sell from in any one of these companies. So what multi-entity management allows you to do is operate all 4 of these entities or businesses within one Business Central company. And how they do it is they use one of the global dimensions in Business Central to be used as this entity dimension. And then as the system builds entries, it will automatically recognize that you're doing a transaction that's between companies or entities, and it will build a due to, due from entry. So that's really the magic of it, in making sure that all of those companies' trial balances stay in balance. So.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, from we've had several opportunities for NAV over the years where this was a requirement, and we really didn't have a solution like this. So it kind of made it really difficult, for those customers to use NAV. So we're pretty excited that this is available, because we're seeing more and more of this where companies will have a separate legal entity set up, maybe for a separate location or an e-commerce site or business that they've created that's kind of affiliated with the main business, but it's separately a legal entity, and it really minimizes drastically the amount of overhead and maintenance that's required on maintaining your chart of accounts and your customers and items and vendors and all those things by using this. So
nice, very very nice. I'll assume that we'll put a link to that in our show notes to that app.
Yep. And the last kind of point I wanted to make on it is, it's a very powerful, I believe, app, and this is not one of those apps that you can just go to App Source, download it, click a few buttons, and start using. Right now, is that possible? Yeah, but I believe that you would want to engage your partner or binary stream directly with providing at least a little bit of guidance up front, and making sure that the system's being set up correctly to meet your requirements. And also then once you get it set up, kind of reviewing everything, making sure it all looks good, and that you're going to be able to get the reporting and data out of it that you expect. So
this is one of those times where you can literally say better safe than sorry, right?
Absolutely, right. Yeah, you take a misstep maybe in setting something up, and maybe it doesn't do exactly what you thought it was going to do. So this is definitely one of the more complicated or powerful ones. It's not, I don't think it maybe is a huge amount of time, but even if it's just a couple hours of time up at the front and towards deployment to make sure things are working, it's very much worth it.
Nice. So with that, then, that brings us to the end of this month's podcast. So thanks everybody for listening. You can find the show notes and show links on our website at www.solsys.com. Just want to mention one more time that Microsoft Teams is free for 6 months. So if you'd like to get involved or get registered for that, reach out to us. And please subscribe to the podcast, share it, tell a friend about it. You can find us on all major podcast platforms such as Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and others. Ken, anything you want to add real quick before we sign off?
No, just this has been a unique one for us. We're usually sitting right across the table from each other instead of doing it remotely. But with all this social distancing going on, this was kind of required for us. I just hope that next month we're back sitting across the table from one another.
As do I. Stay safe, everybody. See you guys next month.